Stephen A. Smit, sports analyst and political commentator. Smit has established a representation of black women in public discourse and stands in direct conflict with NABJ's long-standing commitment to accurate, responsible, and inclusive portrayals of black communities.
I was good enough to speak to the kids. I was good enough to be in the booth for the job fair. I was good enough to have a nationally televised show at your conference over the last 2 years. And the year I don't come back with the show is when I get the thumbs down award. And then you say something as vague as, oh my goodness, he's disparaging black women with no facts.
The National Association of Black Journalists gave Stephen A. Smith a thumbs down award for what they called a recurring pattern of disparaging black women.
NABJ bestows its thumbs down award on an individual or an organization whose actions undermine fair and accurate coverage of black communities, reinforce racist or stereotypical narratives, or advance practices that conflict with NABJ's mission and values.
That's a serious accusation, right? But when they publicly displayed the award, there with his smiling face.
Stephen A. Smith, sports analyst and political commentator. Smith has established a recurring public pattern of disparaging commentary directed at prominent black women across politics, sports, and media.
Hilarious. There was one pretty important thing missing: the evidence. I've been critical of Stephen A. Smith, but what's his evidence of disparaging black women?
It was wrong. It was grossly unfair. And more importantly, it was self-defeating. I will repeat, one of your own is about to be inducted into the Broadcast Cable Hall of Fame, the most prestigious honor, other than winning a Pulitzer Prize, the most prestigious honor one can achieve in our business. On September 29th, I am about to be a member. When we look at accomplishments in this industry by black people in this industry, I'm one of the top dudes to have ever achieved in this business. Yet I'm not in your Hall of Fame. I was good enough to speak to the kids. I was good enough to be in the booth for the job fair. I was good enough to have a nationally televised show at your conference over the last 2 years. And the year I don't come back with the show is when I get the thumbs down award. And then you say something as vague as, oh my goodness, he's disparaging black women with no facts. It's pretty sad. By the way, speaking of my company, Disney, that employs me, that I'm a star for, Disney and ABC News Group announced a 4-year financial commitment to NABJ to support the NABJ Leadership Academy. NABJ, why don't you reach out to Disney? And asked who was one of the people behind the scenes encouraging them to do so. Why don't you ask? Black producers, black associate producers, black contributors, black correspondents, black talents. Why don't you ask? What role I've played and will continue to play in that. These are all facts which, as a journalist organization, you're supposed to care about. Where are your facts?
It sounds either political or personal. Somebody's friend got offended. Somebody's personal acquaintance got offended. But the evidence was missing. There was no list or montage of all these infractions that Stephen A. Smith made. They didn't even list a bunch of quotes. In fact, to the contrary, Stephen A. Smith is pretty complimentary of black women on a regular basis. He talks about being raised by black women, having all aunts, cousins. It sounds like in his family he was the only boy. And it's really strange coming from an organization with journalists in its name, because Stephen A. Smith says this isn't really about black women at all. He thinks he's being punished because of something completely different, how he thinks politically.
I've been surrounded by black female excellence all my life. Where are your facts? Where are they? The reality of the situation is that you don't have facts. You have feelings. And this is where it gets a bit deep. What a few board members decided to do, no doubt egged on by a couple of people on the board who will remain nameless, but put their names up. You can see the names there for yourself. Figure it out. Along with some others. The reality is that it was a personal hit job. That's what it was. We can sit up there and lollygag around and act like we don't know any better. It was a personal hit job. Which, by the way, usually doesn't faze me. I know just because you think something phases me, just because you see me commenting on it. No, I'm in this business. I have a platform. I can comment about anything I want to, and I will continue to do so. That's not what this is. This is different. This is a journalism organization that didn't engage in journalism when it came to critiquing me.
And after listening to his response, I think he has a point, because the question here isn't whether Stephen A. Smith can be obnoxious. Trust me, I've been critical of him on this channel many times before. But set all that aside, the question is, when does criticizing individual black women become an attack on black women as a group? Those are two very different things. As many people know, Stephen A. Smith put a lot of black women in position in sports and media. When you accuse somebody of having a pattern, you're accusing them of doing something repeatedly, something that is detrimental to them. And though you might not like Stephen A's comments on the Trump administration or saying things about Kamala Harris, now I'll give you, he might not always be informed about the topics that he talks about, especially since he's leapt into the political sphere a little bit. But one thing you're not going to say about Stephen A. Smith is that he is some type of misogynist and that he's doing these things just to spite black women. Stephen A. does not practice misogynoir, but let no good deed go unpunished. It doesn't matter what Stephen A. Smith did in this moment. The point was to embarrass him. And the point was to bring him out and have him make a YouTube video just the way he did here. And boy, did Stephen A. Smith go off. You know, it wasn't quite nuclear Stephen A. Smith, but it was still an explosion.
Disparaging black women is a very incendiary thing to say. If you felt that adamant about it, President Haynes, how come I never got a call? How come the NABJ never reached out to me to have a conversation? And you would go on stage, Ms. Haynes, and accuse me of disparaging black women with no evidence, just your feelings. This is shameful, but it's okay. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I understand what's going on. And I must admit, the more I think about it, I actually get flattered. Folks are scared. See, I talk too much. And I don't speak glowingly enough about the Democratic Party. This is political. I am a registered independent. I am fair. I've had my YouTube show, or my SiriusXM POTUS show, every Wednesday night, 6 to 8 p.m., SiriusXM POTUS Radio, channel 124. I've had that since September 17th. Here's what you may not know, NABJ, meaning the board members, because I'm not speaking about the entire NABJ. I've got a lot of friends associated with them, and a lot of them called me last night, and I got love for all of y'all. From the calls to the emails to the text messages, I know who has love for me. I'm not mad at anybody. I appreciate it all. But this is political. If I said this about a black female conservative, any of the things that I said about Jasmine Crockett, Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, would we be having this conversation? Would you have given me the thumbs down award if I had said that about a Sage Steele? If I had said it about a Candace Owens? If I had said it about a Condoleezza Rice? Would we be having this conversation? This is political.
And I think it hurts. It hits different because this is an organization that the past 2 years he's hosted his show at. He's had a great relationship with. You say NABJ, I say Stephen A. Smith and Roland Martin. Those two. That's all they talk about. Well, the NABJ, the NABJ, the NABJ. It gives them some type of connection to the black community, whether or not their outside personas might push the black community away. And that's what I'm saying. We've all been critical of Stephen A. Smith, but does he deserve this public embarrassment? I would say he doesn't. I think it was a calculation that was made for the attention that it could garner. Stephen A. Smith makes a response video for your organization. Your name's in the news for a news cycle as this organization that probably has seen better days. But you get that online boost of Faucette Media talking about you, some of the other YouTubers that are out here talking about the NABJ. Was it a loss? And maybe they made the calculation that they wanted to sever ties with Stephen A. Smith. It was the board that actually made this decision because Roland Martin actually made comments. Another guy that's been in the news. Roland Martin made comments that he's some kind of vice president at NABJ, but somehow he was not involved in this conversation and decision making. And from the reading of Stephen A. Smith's award, you could tell it was somewhat personal. But that's kind of the problem. As a journalist, should you let your personal thoughts get in the way of doing journalism? Isn't that not what's wrong with journalism right now? Is that it's too partisan. It's too emotional. I don't ever remember Tom Brokaw or Walter Cronkite or any of those old news guys that were the gold standard in their eras settling petty beefs and scores, putting Stephen A. Smith up on the Summer Jam screen. That picture is hilarious because people did not expect it. And the picture that they chose is hilarious. It's like he has no idea what's going on. So now y'all got Stephen A. Smith heated on his vacation, mind you, going at NABJ. And he definitely struck that video up so he could get his feelings off. But I still feel like these people don't know what they really started. because Stephen A. Smith is going to milk this thing now. Now you made him an enemy. Is that a calculation that you wanted to make? Is Stephen A. justified in taking heads off right about now? Because he got a mouth on him. That's all he do is sit there and talk. But I guess somehow in their mind, NABJ feels like since his relationships with people like Bill O'Reilly or Chris Cuomo, Sean Hannity, they feel like Stephen A. Smith has maybe turned their back on them. I think it's a miscalculation. I don't think that should be a place where Stephen A. Smith gets put on the same Summer Jam screen as the Washington Post or some larger news organizations. I think that ain't the way to fight this. But once again, I've also been critical of the late stage flailing of some of these organizations in the Black community. Like they're flailing for relevance in a time where the internet is king. And why not go after one of its brightest stars at this point? That's where I have a problem, because this isn't just some random Twitter account they're talking about. This is Stephen A. Smith, who at any time can garner millions of views. Whatever you think about him, he's one of the most recognizable faces in Black media in America. So accusing somebody with that type of platform of repeatedly targeting Black women, it carries weight. It's almost as if they Me Too'd Stephen A. without his knowledge or involvement. Stephen A. is now on the same level as someone who was harmful to Black women. I don't know. I think that might be grounds for a lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer. Don't take this as legal advice, but is that some type of, that could hurt him professionally if it's known that he has this reputation for being anti-Black woman? But he is a public figure, so I'm assuming they've done their due diligence and they know that they can say this kind of thing. The NABJ president, Aaron Haynes, later pointed to his commentary involving Kamala Harris, Jasmine Crockett, and his public conflict with Joy Ann Reid as examples of the pattern they were concerned about. Big deal. They're big girls. They can fight their own battles. One of them was trying to be the president. Remember? But even those examples, they raise a bigger question, because Stephen's response is essentially, you're identifying who I criticize without seriously examining why I criticized them. That's where the rubber meets the road. Is this just a large-scale attempt to get Stephen A. Smith, a sports personality, to stop commenting on politics entirely? Like I said, some of his takes are, no offense, uninformed. And especially with his talk of potentially running for president at one point, I guess they're really putting a nail in any of his political hopes. So I think he actually liked that idea that people thought he was influential enough and potentially had the charisma and status to win as a nominee. But those days have gone. I don't think Stephen A. Smith is a viable candidate at this point, especially with this type of heat coming back at him. But he feels he's been targeted because he's increasingly willing to criticize Democrats and liberal political figures in a way some people in Black media don't like. And whether you agree with his politics or not, that is an important distinction. Long story short, I don't think Stephen A. Smith has a recurring pattern of disparaging Black women. To the contrary, I think he more importantly is about hiring Black women and getting them in position within the industry. Like he said, he's got some new projects coming up and that he's going to need some help. He's going to need some people that will help him. And unfortunately, I hope this doesn't stop him from giving some deserving Black women and Black men opportunities that they probably wouldn't have gotten any other time. But y'all let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all uploads. If you want to watch more, please watch one of these videos down below. Make sure to hype this video. This is Faucette Media.